To that. But anyway, on today's show, we're going to talk about racial Tourettes. Again. I've been talking about racial Tourettes a lot on the show. And there's this one video that's been circulating around the net all this week. I've had it posted on my Facebook page at least 10 times. And I know you guys know exactly what video I'm talking about. There was this video of this Caucasian lady up in Massachusetts somewhere in Massachusetts, and there's a black postal worker. And the black postal worker delivered a certified letter to her husband, and she signed for it. Then all of a sudden she didn't want it no more. She wanted to get the slip back for signing it, and she got into an argument with the black postal worker. And the conversation just started taking a left turn, and then that racial Tourette's came out. And I talked about how a lot of times when black folks, when we argue or get into a little situation or altercation with a white person, it always goes to the nigga shit. It always goes into some crazy left field racial Tourette's type of thing. And I'm going to play part 1 of the video right now. This is part 1, so I want you to listen closely. Hold on, here it is.
And give me the fucking things back.
Ma'am, I can't.
There's a police officer who lives right there and a friend of mine. Now, give me the fucking things back. I don't want the letter.
Please don't do that, ma'am. Please don't
I
do that.
will. I don't want the letter. Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, please don't do
I
that.
said I don't want the letter. Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, you already signed for
If
me.
I keep it, I sign. I don't want it.
Ma'am, please
It's
don't
not
do that.
for me. This is not for me. This is not for me. It's the wrong name.
What, how can it be the wrong end?
Because this is, I do not move with the Rotary Club. The other, my husband, this is not for me. They addressed it to the wrong person. I don't want it. I don't want to legally open it, and I want it back. I don't
Okay.
sign for somebody else's mail.
Ma'am, can you just bring it back to the office and
No. Take it back because it's not mine. It's
Ma'am,
gonna be my
no,
things
I
back.
cannot give you this,
Why do you
ma'am.
want the signatures, you fucking nigger thief?
Uh-oh. Wow, she went right into it. She's like, nigga thief. Boy, that racial Tourette's just came right on out with a vengeance. And here's the rest of it.
Want me to lock you up for life, you asshole? Give me my stiff shit back.
Ma'am.
And I'm not prejudiced, but right now I'm getting real pissed off.
Ma'am.
Okay, so she said she just called him a nigga thief, but she's not prejudiced.
Why are you calling me names? I mean, I'm just delivering your mail.
Because you're acting like a nigger. Now give me the cards back.
This is, to me, it's funny. Sometimes somebody can be so racist that it's hilarious. And this woman is funny to me. I can watch her on TV every week. Her racism is so casual. Here it is.
All right, ma'am, I'm going to have to go, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Why are you calling me the end name?
Because you're acting like a moron. Give me the cards back.
I can't, ma'am.
Call me a nigger. I don't care.
Oh,
Give me the cards back.
ma'am, I'm not going to call you names.
Well, I think that's food in between my teeth. Could you give me the card back?
I can't, ma'am. I can't. You verified it, and you verified that was...
If I take it, I sign for it. If I don't take it, I don't. And I'm going to give it back to you because I don't want it. There's no money involved here.
Ma'am, hey,
So give it back to me. I don't
ma'am, I
want it.
cannot do this, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm late for all the mails. I mean, for all the customers. I have to deliver their mails. You're holding me up.
They'll kill you.
Why you would've killed me?
Okay, y'all didn't hear that. Now, that was kind of low. You didn't hear it. She said, they'll kill you. So she's like telling him that white people are going to kill him. So this woman is doing some throwback racism. Basically, she was like, look, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to get a lynch mob to kill you. So this woman has that old back in the day type racism.
I don't, but they will.
Who?
White people.
White people?
We're not doing what I need you to do right now. Now, please, just give me back.
Ma'am, why you...
Now, you know, and what's interesting about this, and I've said this before. Let me put on some spit music real quick while I make my little commentary. I've said this: racism in the northern states, it's unparalleled to racism in the South. The racism in the South does not compare to racism in the North. Racism in the North has been swept under the rug. See, the South gets a very bad rap. The South has really gotten a bad rap. When people think of down South, they say, oh, you got to watch out for the racists down South. But the real hardcore racism is in the northern states. I've always said that. A lot of the Southerners, white Southerners, get a very bad rap. I lived in Alabama. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama. A lot of white Southerners are real cool. When I tell people, especially when I first moved to the West Coast, they were like, you're from the South? Man, is everybody racist down there? And I would tell them, look, dude, I've experienced more racism here in L.A. than down there. Hell, L.A. is way more segregated than down South. A lot of white folks down South are cooler than you think. There's some good old boys down there, and that's real cool. They don't mind chilling with you and kicking it with you and chopping up game with you, because a lot of them, they've had a tradition of living around black people. Whereas in the North and in some Western cities, traditionally, everybody has always been segregated. So the real hardcore racism has really always been in the North. Hell, when Dr. King went up there, and I talked about this before, when he went up and to Illinois, that's when they were throwing all those bricks and bottles. A lot of that footage from the civil rights movement, a lot of that footage was in the northern cities. Whenever you see that black and white footage of people getting beat up with sticks, a lot of that footage, if you look at those police cars, those are places like Chicago, Jersey, and Los Angeles. Most of the riots were in the northern cities. So again, the South gets a very bad rap. So when y'all understand the context, you wouldn't be so surprised at what this lady is talking about. That's why I talked about that book, Sundown Towns. All the sundown towns were in the northern cities. Don't let people get you twisted thinking that the North is liberal and all these abolitionists. Man, when black folks moved to the North, they were sent right to the black ghettos. The most segregated state in the country is Michigan. It's not in the South, it is Michigan. Do not get it twisted. And another thing about this video, black folks have to watch out nowadays, because again, a lot of this racial Tourettes is coming out, and a lot of these racist whites, they will take their anger and their racism out on people who work in the service industry. They can't just walk up to some random brother talking all that crazy stuff, because they know a random brother will just knock them in the goddamn mouth. But they know how to do it with people who work in the service industry, because people who work in the service industry, you kind of have to take whatever the customer gives you. So you have to sit there and allow them to be racist towards you. There's another video, and I wish I could have found it. I couldn't find it today, but it was another video of this white guy. He was in a subway station, and he was arguing with one of the subway workers, I think a security guard or something. It was a black guy. He just kept calling him nigga. He was like, nigga, nigga. Then he hauled off and socked this brother. And the brother was real cool. The brother kept his composure and didn't do anything. And I commend that brother on doing that, because the brother didn't want to lose his job over no BS. But that brother is much better than me, because I would have had to go ahead and look for new work the next day, because it would have went all the way damn down. But again, this is what cats have to watch out for nowadays, man. The game is getting real deep with this racial Tourette's. And again, they'll take this stuff out on people who work in the service industry, any kind of customer service industry. And this lady is taking out her racism in this video on a postal worker, because they know if this guy hauls off and slaps them, they'll just go ahead and sue the whole postal service, or sue whatever occupation he works for. They'll sue him. So you guys have to watch out for that. But let me play the second part of this video. Now, this is when it gets real interesting, because in the video, the guy makes an assertion that the woman slaps him, and the brother's kind of putting extras on it. Oh, ow, she slapped me. But listen to the dialogue.
Man, why you slap me, man? Why you slap me, man? Ma'am, why you slapping me?
Why do you want to do this? You killed Martin Luther King, you nigga.
Oh, whoa. She was like, you killed Martin Luther King. Where did that come from? Hold on.
You killed Martin Luther King. You niggas turn on each other, you stupid. You turn on me, I'm your leader, you're dumb.
Wait. She said, you niggas turn on each other. You turn on me, I'm your leader, you're dumb. Well, you see that superiority complex? She said, I'm your leader. This woman thinks it's 1873 or something.
You turn on each other, you stupid. You turn on me, I'm your leader. You're dumb.
Ma'am.
You're going to all go under.
Why you slap me, ma'am?
Because I want my fucking things.
But you didn't have to hurt me, ma'am.
You're being dumb. I'm not hurting you. You're hurting me. I'm standing out in the cold and the wet with my socks on trying to get my card back. I don't want the letter.
Why you slap me, ma'am?
I am not slapping you. Don't maybe your wife slaps you.
Now, this woman doesn't know that she's being taped. And let me say this, a lot of comments on YouTube, because the video is on YouTube. I think you can see it under the name Postmaster's Racist Friend in Hingham, Massachusetts. She doesn't know she's being taped. So this is why she's very comfortable with her racism. And there are a lot of whites who are speaking out against this woman. Now, some whites are speaking out against this woman, I think, for one reason, they know she's an idiot. And number two, I think a lot of them are upset because she's kind of telling white folks secrets. This is one of the reasons why I think a lot of whites are upset with this woman, because she's telling some secrets she ain't really supposed to talk about. And this lady on this tape, she gets real deep in a second. She gets into a whole different territory in the game. Let me finish playing this thing.
Take the letter. I don't want the letter, and I want my
I don't
card
believe
back.
you're doing this to me. I don't believe this. Why you calling me a thief?
Because you won't give me the cards back.
I can't give you the cards back, ma'am.
You know what those people are doing?
Okay,
Yes.
well, okay, here we
What
go.
they
Here we
doing?
go. It gets good here. She said, you know what those people are doing? So she's making an assertion to black women. She's about to go in on black women right now.
Yes. What they doing? What they are doing, ma'am? I mean, I don't know them.
I educate you so fast so that you'd understand. The black women are against the black men because they've been exploited so much. They're with the Hitler-esque people. They're with the white people. They work against black men underneath it all.
Okay, so she said the black women are against the black man. They work with the white people underneath it all. Let me play that.
Ma'am. I mean, I don't know them.
I educate you so fast so that you'd understand. The black women are against the black men because they've been exploited so much. They're with the Hitler-esque people. They're with the white people. They work against black men underneath it all. There are very few white women who've had the strength to work for the black
Can you
man.
give me a chance to call my employer?
Okay, so now the brother cut her off. Now she got deep on that one. Now that was a deep one. Now that was one of those secrets that you're not really supposed to talk about. And I talk about this all the time, how a lot of black women have been pitted against black men. A lot of black women have been working with the white establishment really against black men. I just did a pay-per-view special about that, talking about black feminism and the myth of the independent black woman. I just did a pay-per-view special about that last month. And a lot of people think that, oh, we shouldn't do stuff like that, or we shouldn't talk about stuff like that because we're putting out our business and letting white folks know our secret business. Let me tell you something. White folks are very cognizant of all this stuff. As you see, they know exactly what's going on about the rifts. They know of the divisiveness and the division between black men and black women. They are very, very cognizant of that. All these CNN shows about black women can't get a black man, they can't find a successful man, all these shows, they are cognizant of this. They know exactly what's going on. They understand the rift because it's been going on for a long time. And also, there's a lot of low-key resentment that a lot of women have towards black women. This is why they always have to show the image of black women as negative and fucked up and raggedy. The mammy and the whole fat, sloppy black woman, they always have to show that on the surface. And the reason why they do that is, again, to pacify white women, because a fly sister is somewhat of a threat. This is why we got to go into history. Let's go into the history of that. Because during slavery, there were a lot of black mistresses going on in these marriages. A lot of these white guys had black mistresses on the side, and these white women were very fully aware of that, and that caused a lot of resentment. This was rampant during slavery. Why do y'all think we had all these mulatto people? It wasn't because of black men with white women. Well, these white dudes was laying up with sisters 6 ways to Sunday. It was rampant. People don't talk about it now, but it was some real serious stuff going on down back then. There's a book called, I think, The Black Laws of Virginia, came out a long time ago. And just in the state of Virginia, it talked about all the divorces, and you can look at some of the records of the times, divorce records. Many people would get divorced, and the wives would cite that they wanted to divorce their husbands because they kept laying up with their black mistresses. That was one of the main reasons of divorce back during slavery, that their husbands just couldn't get off those chocolate booties. Let's keep it 110 right now. And a lot of these sisters out here, a lot of sisters, they were buddying up next to massa. So they were used as spies and lookouts for other slaves to make sure everybody was kept in line. So a lot of people were resentful towards that. A lot of the slaves, a lot of the black men were resentful towards the sisters. A lot of the white women were resentful towards the sisters and the white male. So it was a lot of deep stuff going on, man. And that's why I'm going to talk about a lot of that stuff in the documentary I have coming out. But you guys need to do some research on that to see where that resentment is coming from. See this white woman on this tape? That's some resentment. She's, in her mind, she's putting the brother up on a little bit of game by throwing the sisters under the bus. She's hooking the brother up with a little information within her racist context. But she's hitting the nail on the head to a certain degree. Now, this woman is a complete idiot, by the way, but she's telling some real stuff that goes on or that has gone on historically. And again, during slavery, a lot of sisters had a vested interest in keeping everything the way it was. There's a place in Ohio called Xenia, Ohio, that you guys need to check out. I'm going to talk about this on the documentary as well. There's a place that slave masters used to take their black mistresses up in Xenia, Ohio. Now, during slavery, Ohio was a free state. And the Mississippi River, that was like a super highway. That they would have steamboats that would go up and down the Mississippi, would take you from the south and to the north. So a lot of the slave masters, they didn't want to just keep creeping around and being on the sneak and sneaking out to the slave quarters. And they wanted to be low key because, again, a lot of these cats were getting divorced because they had their mistresses and they were getting caught with their mistresses. They didn't want to go around town with their black mistresses because everybody knew who they were. So there was a place up north. The slave masters would go from down south up to the north with their mistresses and go to this resort called the Tawa House. That was one of the many resorts that was in some of the northern cities. This was just one of them. This was a popular one. It's spelled Tawawa, Tawa House. And they would take their slave mistresses up there and just lay up with them all summer. It was like a resort. You know, they would tell their wives they got to go up there to do business and they're going to have the women up there doing domestic work. But they were up there just riding black ass 6 ways till Sunday. They were riding so much black ass, they had all these mulatto kids, and they had a university up there. They started a university called Wilberforce. All you people in Ohio, you go to Wilberforce, learn the history about your school. Wilberforce was created specifically for the mulatto kids of the slave masters and their mistresses up there in Ohio. Now, a lot of these sisters, they had an opportunity to run and get away, but a lot of them didn't. So that's some deep stuff that we have to get into. The relationship between the black woman and the white male, especially during slavery. It's a lot of deep stuff people don't know about. In slavery, what a lot of people don't know about is that whenever there were slave rebellions, a lot of the slaves would plan to kill all the white slave masters and their black mistresses because they knew that the black mistresses would throw a monkey wrench in the game. Now, a lot of these slave rebellions, they didn't pop off anyway because there were some more comfortable ass niggas that was telling too, some dudes who was comfortable with being enslaved, so they would tell and just foil the whole thing. So again, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of that stuff in the documentary that's coming out, but back to the whole black woman, white man thing, white woman, black woman. So this woman in the video, she's saying some real deep stuff. And it's funny because I've been talking about this stuff about the rift between black men and black women and how a lot of sisters have been working against the black male. I've been talking about that for a minute, and it's funny to hear it coming from somebody else. Now, with that being said, all sisters ain't on that bullshit. Let me say that, and I know that there's some very conscious sisters out there, and again, some of my idols like Dr. Welsing and Shahrazad Ali, people like that, they're very conscious sisters, and I know there's a lot of conscious sisters out there, but we have to learn how to stay away from these old comfortable ass women who are satisfied with the status quo, i.e. hood rats. That's the number one thing we need to stay away from, black men. I've been trying to get black men off these damn hood rats forever. Nigga, it's extremely dangerous to mess with hood rats, and it's also dangerous to be around niggas who are comfortable with their ignorance. Hood rats and ignorant niggas are the detriment of the black community. We got to keep them at arm's length. The problem is we buddy up to these goddamn dirt bags, and they throw a wrench in the game completely. But I digress. Now let me play the rest of this thing real quickly. Let me play the rest of this tape.
Before you slap me again?
I cannot, and you're going to turn on me, and then...
I'm not going to turn on you, man. I just deliver your mail and you slap me.
But your IQs are lower, so therefore the people who need to help you, you don't believe in. Because you've been kept from being educated in the norm stream for so many years that the other people forged ahead, and it's true, you have to understand this. My mother taught at a black school, okay? I looked at all the IQ scores of the kids. Well, listen to me. She taught at a black school.
I don't want to hear that story.
Okay, so that's the end of it right there. So the woman got into something about how black people's IQs are lower, and she said it as if she's trying to help them. She's like, no, listen to me. Your little nigger brain can't understand because your IQ is lower. Basically, that's what she's saying. But it's very interesting in what she said, and as you see, there have been a lot of test scores coming out talking about black kids with low IQs. This woman and her mother, she said her mother was a teacher at a black school, and her mother was telling her about the low IQs of the black kids. This is why a lot of our kids are not doing well in school. Because they have idiot-ass teachers with this crazy racial ideology, this racist ideology that's teaching our kids. Just man, you see how crazy this woman sounds on this tape? Now, her mother was a teacher in a black school, so this woman is getting this crazy-ass racist mindset from somewhere. So imagine her mom with that same mentality trying to teach our kids. And we wonder why our kids fail, because we have idiots like this teaching them.
My husband, this is not for me. They addressed it to the wrong person. I don't want it. I don't want to legally open it, and I want it back. I don't sign for somebody else's mail.
Ma'am, can you just bring it back to the office instead?
No. Take it back because it's not mine. It's
ma'am,
like
I cannot give you this.
Why do you want the signatures, you fucking nigger thief?
Uh-oh. Wow, she went right into it. She's like, nigger thief. Boy, that racial Tourette's just came right on out with a vengeance. And here's the rest of it.
I'm going to lock you up for life, you asshole. Give me my stiff shit back.
Ma'am.
And I'm not prejudiced, but right now I'm getting real pissed off.
Okay, so she said she just called him a nigger thief, but she's not prejudiced.
Why are you calling me names? I mean, I'm just delivering your mail.
Because you're acting like a nigger. Now give me the cards back.
This is, to me, it's funny. Sometimes somebody can be so racist that it's hilarious. And this woman is funny to me. I can watch her on TV every week. Her racism is so casual. Here it is.
All right, ma'am, I'm gonna have to go, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, I'm sorry. Why are you calling me the N name?
Because you're acting like a moron. Give me the cards back.
I can't, ma'am.
Call me a nigger. I don't care.
Oh,
give me the cards back.
Ma'am, I'm not gonna call you names.
To that. But anyway, on today's show, we're going to talk about racial Tourettes. Again. I've been talking about racial Tourettes a lot on the show. And there's this one video that's been circulating around the net all this week. I've had it posted on my Facebook page at least 10 times. And I know you guys know exactly what video I'm talking about. There was this video of this Caucasian lady up in Massachusetts somewhere in Massachusetts, and there's a black postal worker. And the black postal worker delivered a certified letter to her husband, and she signed for it. Then all of a sudden she didn't want it no more. She wanted to get the slip back for signing it. And she got into an argument with the black postal worker. And the conversation just started taking a left turn, and then that racial Tourettes came out. And I talked about how a lot of times when black folks, when we argue or get into a little situation or altercation with a white person, it always goes to the nigga shit. It always goes into some crazy left field racial Tourettes type of thing. And I'm going to play part 1 of the video right now. This is part 1, so I want you to listen closely. Hold on, here it is.
And give me the fucking things back.
Ma'am, I can't.
There's a police officer who lives right there, he's a friend of mine. Now, give me the fucking things back. I don't want the letter.
Please don't do that, ma'am. Please don't
I
do
will. I don't want the letter. Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, please don't do
I
that.
said I don't want the letter. Give me the cards back.
Ma'am, you already signed for
Yes,
me.
I keep it. I sign. I don't want it.
Ma'am, please
It's
don't
not
do that.
for me. This is not for me. This is not for me. It's the wrong name.
What, how can it be the wrong end?
Because this is, I do not move with the Rotary Club. The other